what I'm really, really gearing for is I'm doing all of those things to push towards a real strong, like a really, really strong think tank space where we're taking the best of those individuals who shine through and cut through, and taking those and putting them on projects and giving them source material to research and saying, here, we need to put out a paper on CRISPR that speaks to our community, right? And so that, and having, you know, some really high level individuals that come from the community or that can talk to the community do so, because that's not happening. And that for me is super concerning, because I've been involved in a few different think tanks and they're all tech initiated and all West Coast tech stuff, but it's all based on society, where we're going, you know, and we're all presenting reports and we're writing and we're doing these things. And I am usually one of, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 people involved. And I'm usually like maybe one or two of color. And I'm usually the only sort of Ivy League person, you know, like involved. Sometimes there's people that aren't even like, didn't even go to college necessarily, but they're just like tech entrepreneur geniuses. But I realized that I've never been invited to a think tank other than the one at NYU that was run by a woman of color. But I've never been invited to think tanks by people of color. I've never seen the paper reports from think tanks from people of color, particularly of like the hip hop community or the community, like, you know, like a youth movement community. It's like, if they're doing it, they're doing it for a reason, right? If there's a think tank that the Rockefeller Foundation is put together, and you know, and it's releasing a report, and that report has a 10-year, you know, sort of like a 10-year window scenario on it. They're doing that for a reason, and whatever reason they're doing it, we need to be doing it for a reason too. Like, we need to be right there in that conversation, and we're not. So I was like, you know what? For a long time, I was like, what the fuck are we doing? You know, like I get into that mode where I'm like, yo, we ain't doing shit. Like, I'm not fucking with us. I don't fuck with black people. I don't fuck with brown people. That's it. I'm done. Fuck. I don't fuck with white people. I don't fuck with black people. I don't fuck with nobody. And then I'm like, yo, we're not doing it because I didn't do it. Like, I should just do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, at some point I got to sort of own it and stop waiting for somebody else to do it. So that's really what I'm pushing. And you can edit all this shit out if you want or not. But I think it's important. I think it's because I do think it circles back to the entire conversation that we're having, where it's dangerous to not have these conversations and to not even be thinking about these things, right? There are the Aspen Institute. There are so many places that are organizing around really large ideas for society as a whole, or very specifically for countries, you know, whatever else. Building these think tanks, building these sort of cabals of captains of their respective industries and all this sort of stuff. And it makes no sense that hip hop isn't taking an initiative to do it now, especially with this striation of people that are making money. But also just even, you know, black intellectuals, all of that, like, there should be these real, like you said, like, you know, the fact that, what's the name of the joint? I know, you know, the think tank that crafts all of the conservative bills, ALEC. Oh, ALEC,
right?
Yeah.
Right? You're like, that's just money and people with time and the will to want to do those things. That can happen now. That isn't no longer an option or opportunity, right? Like Puff, Jay, whoever, you know, you can have Byron Allen, you can have people that can put up $1 million, $10 million, do research, do whatever to find out, you know, when we have this conversation about reparations, and, you know, it would be so much better to be able to come to the table and be like, here, this is an 18-month study that we just did with these doctors, these people, and these historians, and we came up with this, here's the plan, and present it to Congress. and then they take that and then they vote on it. You know, like that is how all this other stuff, these bills are coming from people who have spent the time to do the research, bogus or not, right? Like you obviously have sugar lobby and bullshit lobbies that come up with their bullshit studies, but this is where that those conversations need to go when we talk about being able to really influence power and really to change systematic racism and the bullshit that happens. A lot of times it has to do with just simply the fact that no one's coming with real information. They're coming, like you said, in a situation where it's like you're expecting somebody else to do the work for you.